A question I've gotten multiple times in live chat or in comments on videos is, how does the Clam Blitz overtime rules work? Over the years, I've seen Clam Blitz rules confuse all levels of players, from the casual level up to the high competitive squids. There are 4 scenarios that lead to overtime, 3 standard overtimes with very similar rules, and a special sudden death overtime. Let's go through each and talk about how each overtime scenario can end. Scenario 1, the losing team has a power clam. This scenario is the most standard of overtime. The losing team just has a power clam and it triggers overtime. This is how it can end. 1, all of the power clams the losing team has despawn. 2, the losing team fails to score within 20 seconds of overtime starting. 3, the losing team scores but fails to take the lead before the leading team's basket closes. 4, the losing team scores and takes the lead. The 5th and final one is the leading team scores before the losing team does. Nothing too much to comment on this. This is the most common overtime, and most, if not all, of the players that have played Clam Blitz have experienced this type of overtime. Scenario 2, the losing team has the leading team's barrier open when the 5 minutes is over. So still pretty standard, but in this case, the losing team is on a timer already. So they have less than 20 seconds if they don't score anything additional. It's whatever's remaining on the basket timer. How this scenario ends, it ends in 2 simple options. 1, the losing team scores enough to take the lead, or 2, the losing team fails to take the lead before the basket closes. It's very standard, nothing too much. It basically comes down to, can the losing team take the lead in the push that has started before the game ended? Our final standard scenario is the one that catches most players off guard, including competitive players. Scenario 3 is the current losing team's barriers open at the end of the regular 5 minutes, but they were leading before it was opened. In this case, the game gives the now losing team a chance to respond and take the lead back. This one has a lot of the same endings as the first scenario. 1, all the losing team's power clams despawn. 2, they fail to score within 20 seconds of the overtime starting. 3, the losing team scores but fails to take the lead before the leading team's basket closes. 4, the losing team scores and takes the lead. 5, the leading team scores either by opening the basket again or when the basket is open near the start of overtime, scoring any clam. This is also a decently standard overtime. Oh wait, there's an asterisk. For this scenario, the pity power clam that will spawn after the basket closes counts towards that requirement. This is the only time that the losing team can have 0 power clams in the game and still have overtime, for a period of time anyways. This scenario having that asterisk along with the specific requirements to trigger this overtime leads to the most confusion of how overtime works in this mode. However, it is not the most odd scenario for overtime. Sudden death is the 4th scenario that can trigger overtime. Sudden death is triggered by neither team scoring within 5 minutes. This scenario of overtime has its own special rules to end. They are simple but different from the other 3 scenarios. 1, either team scores, and number 2 is no team scores after exactly 3 minutes. Seems pretty simple, but you may be asking, what if neither team scores? The most common answer I hear is that it's random who wins. But what if I told you the game actually has a built-in tiebreaker for this situation? If after 8 minutes there still is a tie, the team that has made the most power clams within the 8 minutes wins the game with a score of 1-0. If it is still a tie after all this, the final tiebreaker is just Team Alpha wins. With all that, the chances of that happening are low but not impossible. Fun fact, in a public match, you can actually tell which team is Alpha and which team is Bravo in this situation, because Team Bravo's ink color will be behind the overtime banner. This should cover all the scenarios that will trigger overtime. If you're looking for more complex Clam Blitz videos, like how clams spawn and ways to manipulate them, I recommend this video by Pika Dave. It's from Splatoon 2, but outside of a few tweaks like clam pods being 3 and only needing 8 for clams, it's mostly the same to my knowledge in Splatoon 3. Shoutouts to the data miners like Oatmeal Dome that have helped made this video possible on the details of Clam Blitz. And of course, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, you know what to do.